Alex and Connor were afraid to move. Did she go back to sleep yet? Connor asked. How are we supposed to tell? Alex asked. Oh my, what big strong arms you have, Jack, Red said. I'm guessing she's asleep, Connor said, and confidently stood. Oh my, what soft lips you have, Jack, Red said. Let's get out of here before we hear her describe anything else, Connor said. They emerged back into the hall and traveled around the castle for a while longer. All the halls looked so familiar. They thought they had found the right door. They found themselves in a drawing room or a dining room or a ballroom. Let's find the entrance and retrace our steps to the throne room, Alex began, but Connor interrupted her. No need. The baskets are in there, he said, and pointed to a door beside them. How do you know? Alex asked him. Because I remember that portrait of Red being next to the basket room, Connor said, and pointed to a portrait where Red Riding Hood was barely wearing anything, with only a wolfskin coat to cover her. Alex gave Connor a dirty look. What? Connor asked with a smirk. It's a memorable picture. They pushed the door open and found the room they had spent the entire afternoon in earlier. Let's take it from where we left off, Alex said. She and Connor split up and headed to the areas they had last searched. It had been hard during the day, but it was even harder at night, since they had only the light from their lanterns to go by. After a few hours of searching, their anxiety levels were as high as Jack's beanstalk. Suddenly, the twins heard a loud clink. What was that? Alex said. Alex, look up there, Connor said, pointing to a window. On the window ledge was a shiny X-shaped object. What is that? Alex asked. It's a grappling hook, Connor said. It jerked slightly in a consistent pattern. I think someone's climbing up. Hide. They left their lanterns on the ground and dove behind a pile of baskets. A moment later, a figure appeared on the window ledge. It took out a sharp knife and cut out a large circle in the window, and then quietly crawled into the room. It was a woman who the twins had never seen before. Her clothing was made out of plants and leaves sewn together, and her hair was a shade of red, so dark it almost seemed purple. The woman scanned the room and looked cautiously at the two lanterns. Did she know that the twins were in there? Like an animal, the woman began sniffing around the room. She searched through the baskets as she sniffed, discarding some by tossing them behind her. She went around the room using her nose as her guide until finally she locked in on one direction. She climbed on top of a pile of baskets to reach the top of a shelf. She reached her hand to the back and the shelf and pulled out a basket. It had a rim made of tree bark. Alex and Connor looked at each other. There it is! The woman carved a big chunk of bark out of the basket and then tucked it safely into her belt. She put the basket back on the shelf and climbed down the pile of baskets and headed for the window. She was just about to climb through the window when she heard an "ah" come from the other side of the room. Connor had given himself another splinter from hiding behind the baskets. Connor, Alex mouthed. Sorry, he mouthed back. The woman walked toward where they were hiding. She squinted in their direction for a moment. Alex and Connor were both too frightened even to breathe. They knew, she knew, they were there. What was she going to do to them? The woman looked to the ground at one of their lanterns, and a coy smile appeared on her face. She kicked it into a pile of baskets and disappeared through the window and back down the rope connected to the grappling hook. That was a close one, Connor said. Good thing she didn't find us, or we'd be in some... Connor! Look, Alex said. The pile of baskets the woman had kicked the lantern into was on fire. Oh boy, Connor said. We've got to get out of here. Not until I get a piece of that basket, Alex said. She reached into her bag and pulled out her dagger. She ran up the pile of baskets to the top shelf, just as she'd seen the woman do. She wasn't as tall as the woman, so she had to reach farther to get it. Alex, hurry, Connor said. The fire was growing and spreading around the room to the different piles and stacks of baskets. He tried blowing the fire out, but it didn't work. These were large flames, not birthday candles. Alex had to climb up onto the shelf to reach the basket, but she finally wrapped her fingers around it. Gotcha, Alex said, pulling it out. The bark around the rim had 2 chunks missing, one from whoever had written the journal and the other from whoever that woman was. Alex sank her dagger into the basket and began cutting out a piece of it. Alex, unless you want to leave this place pretty extra crispy, I suggest you hurry, Connor yelled. Half of the room was ablaze. It was becoming unbearably hot inside. Dark smoke was filling the air and making it hard to breathe. I got it, Alex said, and made her way down to Connor. The flames had covered the door they had entered from. How do we get out of here? Alex yelled. The sound of running footsteps came from the hall outside the door. Through the flames, the twins could see the faces of several alarmed guards. Fire! Fire in the castle! A guard yelled. Get the queen to safety! Get some water! Another guard pointed directly at the twins. You two, stay where you are. Not likely, Connor yelled. He picked up a particularly heavy basket and threw it at the window, causing it to shatter. He grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her toward it. They breathed in the fresh air from outside. Look, the watermill is right below us, Connor said, and started climbing out of the window and down toward it. He helped his sister out the window, and they climbed down the watermill together. Halfway down, flames burst through all the windows in the basket room. The entire room was an inferno. The watermill began to turn from the twins' weight, and they fell straight into the moat, which wouldn't have been such a rough landing if the moat had been deeper than 3 feet.